The UUP is a hard one because of where it's at right now. It's a party with obviously those conservative roots, and unionism will always be slightly more conservative in its nature, as in it's trying to retain the status quo. And obviously with nationalism taking up so much of the left wing space here, there's always going to be that bit of pushback, But the party has had liberal members like Sylvia Herman. Obviously, she went independent, but she was so disgusted at the thought of working with the Conservative Party in Great Britain. That's why she left. And it's a
Mhm.
party that it has to encompass so many voters, and in both the left and right sense, in which those who don't like the DUP for maybe some of their more staunch reasoning or uh, their lack of wanting of cooperation since the Belfast Agreement. Some will say, well, St Andrews solved that for them, and they're more than happy to work with nationalists and I. But again, for some, that's still left a bad taste. And even when it comes to those which are of more of a moderate position, the likes of same-sex and gay marriage, the party allowed those to have an individual choice in it. But I think best summarizes that party. It's a party full of individuals um, with their own opinions, and it's trying to keep them all together in a coherent message. I think is the real struggle that the party is going through right now.
Would I be fair then in saying that if I were to kind of put like a general trend on the ideological position, at the very least in recent history, then maybe they do fit under some idea of uh, what kind of maybe was the older ideas of like not a centrist, possibly a slightly kind of the moderate conservative position back in the day, which was the idea that you are awful, you should be a stabilizing factor within the country, that you should be, you know, you should attempt to keep order, you should attempt to do all the things which and keep the social order. Um, I'm not saying this for every single member of the party, but in terms of like a general kind of trend of where the ideological position moves in the party, that maybe that's not to say that they're conservative because they're obviously like closer to centrism, but maybe the centrism which they use trends towards the idea of trying to keep some form of stability in the country as opposed to a DUP that uh, kind of barks along a slightly more radical line, possibly.
Yeah, I
I,
think
I don't know if that's fair.
when we're comparing the LC Union's party to those in Great Britain, I think it's easy to say that they're the left wing of the Conservative Party and the right wing element of the Labour Party. They are a centrist party. You're gonna
Yeah.
There's definitely overlap with the Scottish Tories. I think in their objectives, obviously, of trying to keep the union together. But when it comes to bread and butter issues, uh, there's definitely going to be some left wing elements, I think, within that party. With like the free school meals or a single state education system as one of their policies.
In their manifesto, they did point out that they wanted to pay healthcare workers more, and they wanted uh, welfare reform. They wanted, focus on sex and racial equality. So there was definitely very left wing issues in there that they preach, even if they're not always agreed upon by everyone in the party, and also even if it is tempered out by some right wing ideas that also exist in the party. I guess.
Like, I think it was one of their councillors who came out the other day in support of the Scottish government providing free sanitary products to all women. And, this
Yeah.
came from Party HQ. They had retweeted it, they had engaged with it, obviously in agreement with it. So I think, for them to be agreeing with an SNP policy and the SNP, the Scottish Nationalist Party, having a very strong left wing ideology, they're a party that likes, I think they like to take the nuanced bits out of both um, ideological outputs. But centrism, I think, is arguably where they're most suited. And then when it comes down to the individual, there's a there's more determined left or right elements, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Even though I think there are still very right wing, maybe some of the right wing ideas which they have are just so connected to unionism, though, that's why they are so tightly held within the party. You know, things like you support the military and you support the military financially no matter what, and you also support, you know, the police service, and you know the various things like historical investigations and all that kind of talk. Maybe that's one of the reasons they do get pulled back to the right in a lot of
Yeah,
people's
I think
eyes, but also within the party at times.